one of the changes that has been made to the process in the last few years is that families now get up to 5 choices. And so we want to make sure that, there's a higher chance that you're going to get a seat at one of the programs that you want your child to attend. So you don't have to apply to 5 choices, but you can put up to 5 choices.
Today, we're joined by Emily Kelin from Chicago Public Schools. Emily, take some time to introduce yourself to the circle.
Thank you so much for having me, Leslie. My name is Emily Kelin. I am the Director of Early Childhood Access and Enrollment at Chicago Public Schools. And I'm really passionate about making sure that families have the information they need. We have so many wonderful early childhood programs in our city, but it can be overwhelming, as you said. And so I just really want to demystify that process for parents and make sure they have all the information they need.
We're so happy to have you, Emily. Families have a lot of questions around how to apply to pre-K, where should I apply, what is the process? And so I want to take this episode as an opportunity to really give clear, direct guidance to families around navigating pre-K applications, whether it's in community-based organizations or in our CPS sites. And so I want you to take a minute and talk a little bit about the application process.
Yes. So the application opens for the fall in April each year. So it'll be opening soon for this year. And families have a chance to apply to preschool at Chicago Public Schools elementary schools. They can apply for prenatal through preschool programs at community-based organizations. And so it's really important to do some research, check out what's out there, see if your local school maybe has a pre-K program you might be interested in. And then there is an online application families fill out. It can be done online. It can be done in person if you go into your local school. And there also is a hotline families can call to apply over the phone. Once you apply, your application will be processed and you'll find out if you have a placement offer, if you get a seat at a school, or if you're going to be on the wait list. And then from there, you go ahead and enroll at the school.
Great. I mean, it's a lot but it's a pretty simple process, right? And it's pretty straightforward. And there's a lot of support for families along the way. I know one thing I hear from families is around what documents. Families are really anxious around ensuring that they have the right documents, but that's later in the process, right? And so I know we want to inform them on what they should bring, but I talk a little bit about how important it is to put the right information in the system first.
So our application prioritizes the families that have the highest need. And so we will ask about family income. So it's really important if you want to make sure that that's entered in accurately to maybe have some of your income documentation with you while you're filling that out, whether that's a pay stub or a tax form. But again, you don't need to turn anything in until after you get your placement. So you don't need to upload anything while you're applying. So eventually, families will need to verify their income, their address, so things like a utility bill, and the child's date of birth. So we do have on our website a full list of all the documents we take for income, age, and address. And so just make sure you consult that before you go into the school.
One thing I want families to know is when they think about birth certificates, we're talking about the original, not the one with the cute little baby feet. So, families just make sure when you're going to a school that is the documentation that you bring, one of the pieces you can bring to verify age. So, Emily, you mentioned when you were talking about the application process that our application is prioritized by age, and we really want to ensure that we are serving the most under-resourced communities and families. Can you talk a little bit more about if there are any other characteristics that we are looking at when prioritizing students for placement?
Yes. So again, the most important factor that's considered when there's, a lot of families interested in the same program is those socioeconomic factors. So the application system first prioritizes families based on their income, right? So that is why we're going to ask about your family size and your income. But after that, we know that it's really important to families to keep their children in the same school. You want to have your child go to the same school as your older child, as their sibling. So the application will then, for CPS schools, also look at where the applicant might have an older sibling. Then we also know it's really important for kids to stay in the same school if they can, from preschool to kindergarten. And so even though there's not an attendance area really for preschool, we do give some preference to families who are applying to go to pre-K at their kindergarten attendance area school, their neighborhood school. And then beyond that, some schools don't have a neighborhood boundary, or you might be applying somewhere in your neighborhood that's not your neighborhood school. So any families that are applying to a school that they live within 1.5 miles of will also be prioritized.
That's good information for families, because I think many times families are like, oh, I have to go to the school that's right down the street. And so I love the fact that you brought up that there is no attendance boundary for pre-K. You can go to pre-K anywhere you want to in the city of Chicago. Again, community-based or school. I also love the fact that you talked a little bit about siblings. That is a big question that we get. I do want you to touch a little bit before we move on to like resources, but talk a little bit about those families who may have a student with an IEP or students that they may suspect. Can you talk a little bit about their process? Because I know it's a little bit different because it involves another office.
In preschool, students who are already identified as having disabilities will need to be placed by the CPS Office for Students with Disabilities. And so they will be redirected from the application to reach out to that office for a school placement. If you suspect that your child might have a disability or might need an IEP, there are plenty of resources also on our website, and there are places where you can go for a screening. So I'd encourage you to look into that as part of the application process.
That's great. All right. I want to talk a little bit about resources because, we talked a little bit about the placement process. We talked about what we're looking for as we place students or prioritize students. How can families get the help? I know we're doing a lot to try to help families navigate this process. Can you talk a little bit about the resources that are available to families?
Yes. So I would first and foremost direct families to our website, chicagoearlylearning.org. There's a ton of helpful information on there. There's a great FAQ. And then the second place I would always direct families is to the hotline. Mm-hmm. So the Chicago Early Learning hotline is 312-229-1690. And there's, full-time people answering the phones. We have support in Spanish available, and they can answer any questions that you have, but they can also fill out the application over the phone. So if you ever have any questions, that is a great resource. And then we also have some teams that are available for in-person support in the libraries throughout the spring and summer. So again, there's a list of those on our website. They're called Family Resource Centers, and we have folks there who can answer questions, who can fill out applications, and just offer any support parents might need in person.
And I think what's important to note, because sometimes families, especially with pre-K, there's a lot of information, right? And families are uncomfortable. And so what I want to say about the folks that are in the libraries are those are CPS staff. Mm-hmm. So please feel free to make an appointment and to go into the select libraries that we have in partnership with Chicago Public Libraries to either answer your questions, complete your application, or verify your application documents. Emily, what advice would you give to families who are applying for the first time? I hear that all the time. Like, what do I do?
Yes. So I would say the first thing is to just slow down. It's not a rush. I think there's a misconception that the day the application opens, you have to apply that day, and that's the way you're going to get a seat. There's sort of like an opening priority window throughout the month of April. And so you really should be taking your time to research the programs, think about what might be a good fit. There is no rush to turn in the application on the day it opens. Mm-hmm. And then I would say the second thing is really to keep an open mind, because there might be a school that you didn't know about that is a great fit for your child and your family. And it might be that the school you had your heart set on is just completely full. And so it's really important to just be open. There are wonderful programs across the city. There are wonderful programs in your neighborhood. And so just keep an open mind and learn as much as you can about what's out there.
And one way that families can learn about what's out there is our pre-K week. April 13 through 17, families will have the opportunity to go into really CPS schools and meet, experience what their child could experience when they apply for pre-K and attend pre-K in the fall. So that is a wonderful opportunity for families to get good insight on the schools that's within their community and in their neighborhood. Emily, we know that this is a big step for families. They're nervous, they're young. I remember when I was taking Tyler, even though I was a teacher, I was still like, oh my gosh, she's so little, she's 3, and I know what 3-year-olds can do, but I was still a little anxious. And I know that, we understand that this is a big responsibility. And in the district, we are ready to care for them and love on them and make sure that their experience is joyful and rigorous, but fun, right? Can you talk a little bit? So I think that's one way to kind of take the ease off families' anxiousness. But can you talk a little bit about some of the other enhancements that we've done to kind of help this process seem more manageable for families?
Yes. So one of the changes that has been made to the process in the last few years is that families now get up to 5 choices. And so we want to make sure that, there's a higher chance that you're going to get a seat at one of the programs that you want your child to attend. So you don't have to apply to 5 choices, but you can put up to 5 choices. And so we hope that helps families kind of cast a wider net and have a better chance of getting in somewhere.
I think it's also important for families to know how to rank. That's one thing I want you to get, because I get a lot of questions like, okay, I get 5 choices, but is there a particular order that I have to put them in? So can you talk a little bit about that for me?
Yeah, so you really should rank the schools or the other programs in the order in which you would like your child to attend them. There's really no reason to rank them any other way. We really encourage families to rank their programs in the order that really matches their preference. So whatever is the school you most want your child to go to, you should put that one first. And so, because what's really important to know about placements is that you're only going to get one offer. And so if you, let's say, get a seat at your 3rd choice, you're going to be waitlisted at your 1st choice and your 2nd choice. And it's okay to take that seat and you can stay on the waitlist. I think that's really important to relieve some of the pressure. I think families worry that, if they take a seat somewhere, then they're giving up their chance of the school they really want to go to. You can stay on a waitlist. So we just really encourage you to, again, cast a wide net and make sure that the choices you pick are reflective of your true preference.
And I know families get so anxious around the wait list. And I know one of the things we encourage families to do is accept your seat. So even if you're waitlisted someplace, accept your current seat to ensure that you have space allocated for you at a school or agency. Can you talk a little bit about the waitlist process? I know it's a little bit tricky for families, but I just want to be able to give them a little bit of information on how it works.
Yes. So like I mentioned, you're only going to get one seat, one offer. And so any programs that you have ranked higher than that, you'll be automatically placed on the wait list. I think something that's really important is to remind families that we make placements based on family need. And so it may be that over time, other families join the wait list who might have a higher need than your family. And so it's important to recognize that the wait list is not first come, first served. But you can, check your wait list status, and it's okay to stay on a wait list through the summer. And then maybe, it gets towards the beginning of the school year and you haven't moved, and maybe you decide, I want to come off this wait list and look somewhere else. That's totally fine.
So now, Emily, we're going to play one of my favorite games. It's a childhood game. Red light, green light. Did you play that? All right. So you know what to do. But it's a little bit of twist on the way we play it here at Circle Time Conversations. We really are trying to demystify and really provide clear, concrete, accurate information for families. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and then you're going to use the paddles here to share if the answer is, oh no, that is not true. You want to hold up your red paddle. If the answer is true, or the question is roughly true, you want to hold up your green paddle. And if it's true, but I need to make some clarification, you're going to hold up your yellow. Okay. All right. So, and all of these are like really questions that we've received from families. So the first one is around, I know we talked about the application process, but this question is, as soon as the application opens on April 7th, I have to apply that day.
So that is a false. So the application, is open year round. So you can apply anytime throughout the summer for this fall. Now, it's important to realize that there is kind of a first priority round. So I would encourage families to apply in April. So this year, that window's from April 7th to April 28th. All of those applications are considered at the same time. And it is important to apply during that window because a lot of programs will fill up once we run that first round. But you do not have to apply on the first day. You really do have that whole period from the 7th to the 28th. All of those applications are considered at the same time. So please take your time.
Good. I know that's something that families are, concerned about. And I know, you've heard the stories. I've heard the stories of people staying up all night. No need to do that. Just really take your time, explore, and apply within that initial application window. I think that's the takeaway for families. All right. Okay. So here's our next one. I should wait for schools to contact me before accepting an offer.
That is false. So when your child gets a seat, you'll get an email. And a lot of times the school will call you and tell you, we're so excited to have you this fall. Please come in and fill out your paperwork. But you do not have to wait for that to happen. So as soon as you see that email showing you where your child has a seat, you can log back in and accept it online. You can call the hotline. You can call the school. They can accept it for you. You can go into the school, although we do encourage you to have an appointment. But please do not wait. If you see that offer, go ahead and accept it.
And then the other thing I want to make sure that families know about, there is a date on there where it says offer expires. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because we know families travel during the summer. I don't want to scare families. So I think we do want them to accept as soon as possible, but there is a date on there where offers can be lost.
Yeah. So as long as your offer is accepted, it will not expire. So again, just make sure when you see it, go ahead and accept it. You can always decline it later if you change your mind. But we just want to make sure families accept before that expiration date.
Here's our last question. The Chicago Early Learning application is the only place to go to apply for pre-K in the city of Chicago.
So I'm going to say that depends. Okay. So yes, all applications are submitted through that website, but you do not have to do it on your own on a computer or tablet or phone. You can do it over the phone. You can do it at a Chicago Public Library location that has CPS staff. You can do it at a school. So there are lots of folks who can help you. They will all submit it through that website, but there are plenty of places to get support.
And even for our community-based partners, right? You can walk right into a community-based organization and get the support, as well as call the hotline to get support with applying for pre-K as well. Thank you so much for playing my favorite game. I appreciate it. And I thank you also for just sharing a wealth of information for families on how to navigate the preschool application process. I know you and I hear a lot about the concerns families have, and I think this episode really helps to shape the process, the supports, and what families need in order to apply. So thank you so much. All right, so I would not be a great teacher if I did not give homework or a reminder. But I want to start with you first. What is one thing that you would like for families to take away from all the information that you shared today?
So I think I would really like families to take away that there is a lot of support and information out there. So you do not have to figure out this process on your own. You can all of the resources I've mentioned, our website, our hotline. We have amazing principals and teachers at our schools and community providers who can help you figure this out. So there's so much support out there. So just make sure you take advantage of that and don't feel like you have to do it alone.
Excellent advice. Excellent takeaway. And then for me, I think my homework for families is going to be explore your options, right? Go on to the Chicago Early Learning website, look at the FAQs, right? Look at the programs that are available in your community, in your area, see what resources are available. So just explore. So your homework is to explore the website. And my reminder for families is all about the date. The application launches on April 7th, but I do want to add a caveat. You don't have to apply on that day. Even though it launches on April 7th at 10 a.m., we want you to take that time for those 3 weeks during that initial application period to explore your options and apply. As you mentioned, Emily, to folks, all of the applications that come in from the 7th through the 28th are all going to be considered at one time. And I also want families to remember that this is your best choice or time. This is your best time to get potentially the choice that you want, right? Because this is when the most seats are available. So please remember, explore, take your time, apply within this initial 3-week window. Emily, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate all the information that you shared. It is really going to help families make informed choices and navigate the application process really smoothly. So there you have it. The application launches on April 7th. Please use this episode as a resource. Share it with your neighbor, your friend, your colleague. It is sure to help anyone who is interested in applying to pre-K programs across the city of Chicago. Thank you for joining us here in the Circle. Make sure you subscribe and share.